Ia te whātulau atu I tātou makana le nea whiawhi, e whamamure atu. I can probably convey a little better in English what I want to say than I could in our language. And so please excuse me if I have to speak in English. I know our language, but I don't know well enough to be able to say what I want to say. So please bear with me. Regarding Tuimavave, I was just a young man growing up in our village, Olo Tina o Tulutulu Teofilo, o ia lea foi, o le iso Martina o Tuimavave Yawaye. I came here when I was 12 years old. So much of our culture I had to learn secondary. And that was because I was somewhat, most of the time, I was away from my family. But in God's goodness to me, that I was able to really know a little bit more about Tuimavave. Started having our family reunions. Our family has suffered a number of our loved ones who have passed away. And I am sorry to say at the same time, it is very revealing because it is times like this that I get to learn the heritage of our family. Even as has been said tonight or today by some of our leaders, and the way that this man was and the way that he spoke to us as the young people. As you know, he was a very proud man. And he did convey that to us in terms of our family. As you may well know also, that because I married outside of the Samoan, good to know that our older folks led some of the way like that. I was always quiet when we had our meetings and when our family got together. I am one of the younger ones. And so I sat and I listened. But most of the time when Tuimavave, when we were sitting and we would have a meal or something like that, he would say, "What do you think?" A lot of our conversations was around the scripture, and that was because he well knew that I attended, and this was something that I loved so much. As just like any other family, it's good to know that there are so many religions that our family is attending, but the one true thing that we all know is that there is one sovereign God of the universe, and he ordains every step, and he controls everything. Nothing goes out of his hands. There's a scripture that says in Psalms, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. This is a very unusual way for the scripture to speak, because if you want to look up the word precious, it is only used just a very limited time in all of scripture. The word precious conveys the idea of something very endearing, something very hold with value. The word precious, I would encourage you to take a look at that and look it up. But then it says, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. This is a very unusual scripture, as you will find in many of the other scriptures. And the last conversation that I had with Tuimavave was right along those lines, and that was one of the last times that we spoke like this was at my older brother's funeral in San Francisco. And we talked like this. And it was always encouraging to me because even though I was quiet most of the time, and that was because a lot of the times I really could not tulo atu. Lei foi lele lau tau salanga whasamo I luma I taruai. Very limited. Again, I know our language, I can speak our language, but very limited to the sense where I was afraid that I would say something wrong. And so one of the things that Tuimavave always said to us, the younger generation, because he loved our family, and that was one thing as I've heard today from what he has said about our family, he was proud of our family. But more so, he truly loved our family. And one of the things that he always said to me is, Pete, you've taken a different turn in your marriage and in the raising of your family, but you are still a Samoan. You are still part of our family. Let this be something that would hinder you from teaching your children about the heritage that they have from our family here. And I will not forget that, because this was one of the things that he always spoke to us. Many of us, the younger generation in our family, grow up in this sense of sometimes, yes, we do understand our language, we understand our culture, but times are different. And this was one of Tuimavave's fears that he had, was that the times are changing how we keep in touch with our families. And I so much appreciate and respect that, because that is what I remember Tuimavave the most from, is his love for our family. And not just me, but even my children. My children notice that, and they speak of it in that regard. And so it's something that I cherish in the advice that he gave to us. It is something that I cherish because in our family reunions, he was very opinionated, like everybody said earlier. But you know something? His opinion was there because he loved his family. I think that's one of the testimonies that all have said this evening, is how much that he did love his family. And I am thankful for the privilege that I've had for the short time to be able to speak with him and to learn from him and to see that love, because it is something that is rare in families. It is something that is rare in family, to have someone that truly does care and truly treasures what is needed in a family in holding him together. One of the things that he said to me, to all of us, is here in the United States, we all live so far apart. And what happens is that our children grow up without really not knowing each other. And so what happens, there is a loss of our culture and of our family that begins to take place from every generation. And I think we all know that. That's part of life. But he always said, it's up to you as the parent to convey that to your children, what your family means, and most of all, raise your children in the ways of the scripture. That I appreciated much about what he has always instructed us. So this evening, I would say that it is something that I hold dear to my heart, is the fatherly advice that he gave us. Because we, in our Patu'ua family reunion, we always looked up to him as the elder spokesman for our family. And that was because he did speak on behalf of our family. And I am so grateful for the chance to know that his kindness and the way that he desired for our family, it's evident in the people that are here and in the rest of our families. So may God be pleased to use his life, his heritage, both to his children and to our family. May God be pleased to use that for his own glory and for his own purposes. Oh.